Hi everyone, welcome to Haptik's Fireside Chat, where we get one of the experts from the industry to share their experience about what are the digital transformation initiatives they are running in their organization and share some key learnings in terms of how their experience has been. Today with me, I have Karan Avasthi from Embibe. Karan has been with Embibe right from their starting days way back in 2011 when the company was just starting out. And since then, he has been leading the exponential growth that the Embibe has seen in the last few years. Karan has worked with companies like ITC, Godrej Consumer Goods, as well as Thomas Cook prior to joining Embibe. Welcome, Karan. It's great to have you on the on the talk today.
Thanks, Karthik. How are you doing?
Very well. Like I said, I'll ask you a few questions and would love to learn from you and your experiences in terms of initiatives you are driving at Embibe.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire away.
Awesome. So first up, uh, EdTech has been really hot, and we all know why. The entire COVID situation has really benefited one industry, which is EdTech. So would love to understand what are the trends that you've seen in the tech space in the last few months, and would it be fair to say that this is really the inflection point for edtech?
I think EdTech has seen a couple of inflection points. I'll actually tell you a story that that's one of my experiences back in 2014, where I visited a small coaching institute in Malad. I'm forgetting the name, but it was a teacher who was teaching a class of about 50 students. And I was there, I had an appointment to meet him at about 4 p.m. And the guy made me wait for about three and a half hours. Came outside the classroom and said, "You have 5 minutes. Tell me what you do." So I was, first of all, I was, a bit taken aback because I felt that, if I had waited for that guy for about 3.5 hours, maybe he would give me at least 15, 20 minutes or half an hour, but that was not the case. And that was a signal. The signal was that the teaching community was still full of traditionalists who were not ready to adopt technology wholeheartedly, right? And in those 5 minutes, I was able to tell him what we do, but he said that he was not interested in. That's water under the bridge. What happened after that is, because of these policy decisions that the government took, right? In the interim, the JEE main exam, the other competitive exams became computer based rather than pen and paper. That's when the educator community stood up and took notice that, okay, so maybe we need to give students exposure to how computer based tests work, and how students can actually leverage technology to augment the current classroom teaching system. um, After coronavirus, or the pandemic that has hit us all really badly, fortunately, yeah, as you rightly said, edtech has been one of the beneficiaries, because once classrooms are shut, how do you facilitate interaction between a teacher and a student? How do you ensure that learning delivery is not suffering? How do you ensure that there is a closed loop feedback, where after a lesson delivery, teachers are able to understand in a virtual environment whether students were able to understand what was being taught or not, right? So for sure, what has happened is, after the COVID outbreak happened, a lot of these schools, a lot of coaching institutes, a lot of educators, uh, who have been traditionalists for so many years, have now finally understood the importance of technology, or the role that tech can play to augment their existing system, which is classroom based or physical interaction based, right? But what they're still not seeing is, technology as a tool which can move the needle on learning outcomes. Even now, it is still more or less a function of delivery. So can I just get a live interaction platform where my teacher can talk to a student? That's all that they're looking at. They're not really looking at what technology can truly do in terms of becoming the eyes, ears, nose, all the senses that the teacher has, to give him the right kind of context around every learner, and what are every learner's strengths and weaknesses, and then what is the tailor-made recommendation or remedy that needs to be served to that particular learner to be actually be able to perform to potential. So that's something. that will happen over time, but for sure, I think it's the numbers are there for everyone to see. EdTech is definitely booming and headed in the
Got it.
right direction.
So if I were to summarize this, basically the number of people adopting digital technology to ensure delivery of education, that has definitely increased, but using technology to really replicate the experience that a teacher can provide and improve the experience for the student and his performance, that really has not happened as yet. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. But Embibe has always been about AI and personalized learning and using technology to really understand the student and help him excel, right? I know ever since the company was founded, these were the core beliefs that you kind of always wanted to build the company on. How is that panning out for you? And would love to understand some results you've seen there.
So I think when we started out, and this is back in 2011 again. I keep going back because there is a lot of context, right? Um, when Aditi reached out to me and said that let's start something in education, we want to do something truly disruptive, and we studied about 150, 160 edtech companies that are that are there globally. That were there globally at that time, and we started to deep dive into what their value proposition was and what was the need or pain that they were trying to address or fix for users. What we realized was that 99% of the edtech universe was focused on serving content on a platform,
Yeah.
which is nothing but a natural extension of the existing physical teaching system, that I am just imparting some content to you, I'm delivering a lesson, and then it's up to you whether you absorbed it or not, and whether you're able to learn how to apply it or not, and whether you can then be exam ready on that knowledge base that you've acquired or not. Um, but having said that, what we saw at that time was that if you ask any student a simple question, that beta, what was your score in the last test that you took?
Mm.
So the kid will say, okay, 60, 70, 80, whatever, right? If you follow it up with another question, where you ask the kid, okay, so are you happy with the score? Are you satisfied with your performance? 9 times out of 10, you will hear the answer, no. Okay, that's great. So clearly there's a gap between your actual performance and your potential, right? Which is clearly perceivable. But then if you ask another question, how could you have improved?
Mm.
How could you have actually achieved your potential in terms of the score that you got in the test? Nobody had an answer.
Mm.
Everyone just went blank. They're like, oh, we don't know. And that's the point, right? Instruction happens in batches, recommendations happen in batches, remediation happens in batches. While everyone talks about how we are personalizing education, nobody truly is, right? And this is one of the most overused words in education, personalization, right? Somebody else will come with a video on a platform and say that this is personalization. Hey, you can press pause, you can press play, you can press stop, you can press rewind and fast forward, and learn at your own pace, and that is personalization. But that's actually not personalization, because it's the same content, right?
Got it.
So we figured that if we had to truly disrupt this industry or this segment, right, this sector rather, we had to fix the problem of context, which means, can our platform enable free flowing information on very very relevant on point parameters which impact every student's performance, and enable that flow of information across students, parents and teachers,
Mhm.
right, in a meaningful way, such that the child's education doesn't become a black box anymore. Biggest validation for this, if you might be aware of this, is that the new education policy that's come out a month back talks about learning outcomes, talks about the application of frontier technologies like AI and ML in education, and talks about any budget being deployed by the government for any kind of digital intervention has to be tied to learning outcomes. You know, so those days where you're just paying money to acquire content are going to be over very very soon.
Got it. Interesting. Great. I mean, really exciting to see how uh, AI is being used fundamentally, not just like as a project to provide value to the end user. So kudos to you guys on that. Next interesting topic around conversational AI, chatbots, and obviously there is a lot of work Haptik and Embibe have been doing together. But before we get
Yeah.
there, when you guys kind of thought about, hey, we need to automate support and we need to have conversational AI solution, what were the initial set of discussions and conversations that internally you guys had before you decided to say, all right, we need chatbots? How did you decide?
So I think conversational AI is the future of engagement on any platform. That's what I firmly believe, and we've always been from the school of thought that AI is something that has to be looked at in a big way in order to standardize the experience across the board, right? So the biggest limitation in a personal intensive route is that there's a human limitation. There's diversity in different types of people who have different backgrounds, and then you have to make them think the same way and respond in the same way. It's almost robotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to achieve. I think the one of the first concerns that I had, which I wanted to kind of address through this, was replicating the brand's tone of voice in a standardized way across all customer facing touch points, right? So whether it is a chat, a live chat facilitated by conversational AI on my platform, or if it is responding on social media comments and messages, or if it is anything to that effect. What I wanted to do was implement a standardized experience for any user, right? Where you have a standard set of questions and you have a standard set of responses. What this also helped us to achieve is very good numbers on first response time and query resolution, which is faster. So if I'm kind of working hard to make that initial list of FAQs and the most frequently discussed topics on the platform, then I'm better prepared to resolve your queries faster, that much faster, right? Rather than having an agent look through the repository and finding the link and then copy pasting it and sending it out. So the overall experience becomes seamless. And the other thing that I love about this is that when the bot talks to you, it doesn't feel like a bot. It feels like it's an actual human being talking to you, because the way the communication is being drafted is being done to reflect empathy towards customers. So while it's AI, it is also empathetic, that much more empathetic in nature. And kids are having a lovely time conversing with our AI bots. I think they don't even it's a bot. We're also thinking of giving them some names.
Oh, nice. I do remember the team had spent a lot of time in the initial design phase to bring that entire angle of empathy and personalization into the conversations as well. So glad to see that it's paying off, and
Yeah.
users are actually taking note of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in terms of the use cases, that obviously one is the experience, which where the conversation writing style design comes into play. But then second is the utility of the bots as well, right? In terms of the use cases you're trying to solve. Uh, what were the top uh, problems or use cases that the bot was designed to kind of solve for, and how is that panned out for you?
So there are different use cases, right? So one use case can be, I want information related to my exam, right? So we have a blog that does that. The blog carries about tens and thousands of articles. But for a user to go on Google search and then figure out, type the keyword and then look through Google search results and then figure out which link is working out for me, and click on that, come on the article, start reading through it. It's just wasting a lot of time, right? So anything related to exam information, I just come on Embibe, I just type my query in, and I get a response, because all my blog article links are tagged to those questions. So if I'm asking a question around JEE Main admit card, I know exactly what link needs to be served, right? Which is again what I meant by faster resolution.
Correct.
Right? Then there's another set of support, usual regular engagement support queries that students will have around technical questions around how to use the platform, or how to read a particular report, or if I want to ask a doubt. All of those use cases have been covered really well. I think the next step in the evolution of these conversational AI bots that we're working with you guys on is how can we standardize guidance, so make the bot smarter in terms of, if let's say I took a test or I had a practice session and I demonstrated a behavioral deficiency where I was not attempting questions in a genuine way, right? So, for example, I was answering questions in like 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't even read a question in like 5 6 seconds. How can you attempt a question in 10 seconds, right?
Right.
So at that time, the recommendation
Mm-hmm.
that comes from the platform has to be around, take your attempts very, very seriously and spend at least 30 seconds reading the question and attempting it in a proper way so that you're not making careless mistakes, or you have a higher accuracy in terms of your attempts.
Mm-hmm.
So if the bot then can pick up these nuances, right,
Right.
and pick up these signals and then give the requisite guidance just like a teacher would do if
Yeah.
he was sitting right next to the kid. I think that's the next step, which is really, really exciting me at this point in time. And if we're able to achieve this, then every kid is going to have a personalized mentor, right, sitting right next to him,
Yeah.
as part of his any device that he's using to consume knowledge.
Very interesting. I think it's a great way to look at how technology can also evolve and do a lot more for the end user. Right from a support assistant,
Absolutely.
it's basically becoming a teaching assistant.
Absolutely.
Pretty interesting.
And then we have to look at how can we make this voice enabled.
Sure.
That's a very interesting use case, because if you look at the overall market, English speaking users, especially in India, is actually few. It's few. It's not in the majority. The majority actually is in the vernacular languages. So
Right.
how do you kind of enable these bots for vernacular conversations and then make them voice enabled? I think is going to be the space where a lot of time and energy and investment is going to go in to make sure that every kid gets access to the best quality guidance, uh, purpose, tailor made to his specific use case or specific uh, you know issues that needs to be solved.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, I think very, very well summarized. That's exactly how we are also thinking about the evolution of the Embibe bot.
Yeah.
I was going through the data and looking at how the performance has been. So it's the bot has processed close to about 150,000 conversations so far, with an average user rating of about 4.1. And also the resolution time with the bot has now been reduced by close to 90%. So seems like the bot is checking all marks and hitting all your business goals, uh, which means the indication that it gives us that the way you guys designed the bot and thought about, hey, what needs to get done, it is pretty much achieving those goals.
Yes.
So one question I wanted to ask you was, uh, basis now this implementation, are there any learnings that you would want to share with everyone who's thinking about bots and who's thinking about having conversational AI for their business?
I think one of the biggest learnings is to be patient. You know,
Mm.
because the thing with bots is that you any kind of algorithm for that matter, you need enough data to be inputted before you start to see some kind of semblance in terms of accuracy, or whatever you want to call it, in
Mhm.
terms of the efficacy that the bot brings to the table. So and that's something, being an AI company ourselves, we understand that really, really well, but a lot of people would not, right? Where they would look at instant results. They would say, "Oh, so if I've implemented a machine, why am I not getting the result?" you
Correct.
know so the biggest learning that I have in this space is that you have to learn how to be patient, and you have
Mhm.
to feed a lot of meaningful data
Mhm.
to any kind of bot-based initiative that you plan to roll out for any function. So for us, it's been more of a customer support, product communication kind of an approach.
Mhm.
Somebody else might have some other requirement, but at the end of the day, the principle doesn't change.
Sure.
Uh, until the bot is fed with, like you said, 150,000 chats have gone in, but I think that's still scratching the surface. There's so much more that the bot can consume and operate for it to be ready to be delivering at scale
Mm.
across a diverse set of users, right? So that's one, definitely.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Very, very, very well summarized. In fact, we've seen the most successful implementations where the client has had a clear roadmap given at the time and the data, so that the bot evolves with time rather than doing like a rush job. So, completely with you on that thought.
Great.
Awesome, great. So it's been a great journey, honestly, even for the team at Haptik to be working on the Embibe bot. The initial results do look extremely promising, and you're right that there is a lot more that we need to cover as a team in terms of vernacular, voice, and adding a lot more intelligence. And I think we should all to collectively aim for making this a support specific and a support assistant bot to really becoming a teaching assistant bot as it evolves down the line. Uh,
Absolutely.
Awesome, great. So that's primarily all the questions I had, Karan. Thanks so much for your time and sharing your learnings and insights with us. Uh,
My
Thank you
pleasure,
once
Haptik.
again.